Yeah, good morning. This is the Hawkeye session. Today is Tuesday, November 17th, and we're going to be going until about 10:15-ish, somewhere around there. Trading the foreign exchange on margin carries a high level of risk and may not be suitable for all investors. The high degree of leverage can work against you as well as for you. Before deciding to invest in the foreign exchange, you should carefully consider your investment objective, level of experience, and risk appetite. The possibility exists that you could sustain a loss of some or all of your initial investment, and therefore you should not invest money that you cannot afford to lose. You should be aware of all the risks associated with the foreign exchange trade and seek advice from an independent financial advisor if you have any doubts. This is a live trading room. It is for educational purposes only. No financial advice or recommendations will be provided. Any trade taken during this live session is not a recommendation or a suggestion that you should also do the same. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Do not trade money that you cannot afford to lose. Before trading live, always operate with a written trade plan that identifies rules for entries, exits, targets, and risk management. And with that, we will go to the charts. And we had an alert of the Aussie US at 7:30 this morning. And it was, if you look and see where the RSIs were, you can see they're all, as we got the alert, it came on down and it was pretty much at the extreme. If you look on the 1 minute chart, you can see where this RSI, it was all the way down here at the 8 period was down here below the 75. We got the flip of the 8 over the 9 over the 3 period over the 8 period, came back up. This is right where the alert was, and it came back down, retested this the C AC range, which is basically where I drew the box on this on the 5 minute chart. So this was actually the range where I was looking for it to have to kind of close and break through the higher time frame trend. This was a trend that was all the way back from way back over here in so it was around this was yesterday's near touch, and here all the way over here is where they pretty much started with the trend. And you also see we also have our 30 period moving average that is bounced right off of. So that was a couple of reasons for this thing wasn't going to go too far. Either that, if it was going to break through and close, get a nice close below this moving average, then I would have expected that would have been maybe going lower than having that be the new support zone or resistance zone. But it looks like it just bounced right off of it. Now it's coming back up to retest the top of the wedge. And we're not get a lot of movement of it. It's not moving real fast. It's not moving real aggressively, but that's pretty much what we see right now. And let's see, we have Eva in here this morning. Good morning, Eva.
Morning. How are you?
There's Christine. Let me get her over in here. And we have a few other people in here. Welcome, everybody. If you have any questions, comments, you're free to raise your hand and we'll turn your mic on for you.
Do you have Leslie as a panelist today?
Oh, I guess, well, she is now. I guess I can unremove her. I can remove her, but
I was looking at that and I'm thinking, is it just me or is Leslie the panelist and Christine's an attendee?
Yeah. Well, in fact, since yeah, well, and Pedro, you're actually I'm with you over here too. Looks like you're one of our regulars here. I'm going to allow you to come over and be a panelist as well. That way, you're free to open up your microphone and just talk and ask us any questions. Looks like we have a smaller group today. I'll wait and see if anybody else shows up. Today is Tuesday. We do have quite a few red folder events that we have to be aware of. If I look at the Forex Factory notes on December or November 17th, we have all day. There's some OPEC meetings all day today. At 8:30, we have some U.S. Some reports. They're all red folders, so that's going to affect the U.S. All of our pairs are pretty much U.S. based. And Fed Chairman Powell talks at 1 o'clock. And then at 5 o'clock later on today, the Governor Lowe speaks. So there's going to be some red folders to be dealing with. It may be kind of one of those days that maybe just one of those days to kind of watch and observe and see what happens. But right now we did get the alert on the New Zealand USD. That was at 8:30. When I drew the wedge, I basically drew it from the overnight high to the overnight low. That was my main thrust. I tucked the C right in here close to where the alert was. We did get the break, but it had to, I really wanted to see a break below, get a nice solid break into this zone. We did get a close below the 15-minute or the 5-minute candle here, which have been right up around this area of the, where the C is. We did get a close below, came back down in, and then it just rejected. But it is somewhat challenging in this area right in here. So this is that's only 9 pips to the upside. So we had a break, came back up, retested this real long candle right here, drop, base drop, retested this area. Put this one up since it take, and we're going to see where it, and we're going to just have to wait and see where this thing could just be range bound right into this area, but it does have a higher time frame trend line on the bottom. It has the bottom of the wedge, which it did break, but it still did not make a lower low than where the A was. So right now it's still trading inside the overnight range of the BA move. So I'm just going to put a box around that. That's basically, we need to see a break the B area to go head on up further north. And we're going to put this as just a range box right in there. That's the range it's been trading in. And if you measure the range of that, that's basically 29, it's about 30 pips. Plenty of room to take a trade, to get a trade, but you need to be getting in the right area in order to make it work for you. Check where our fib zones are. We have a nice green fib zone right here by where the A is. That was rejected. And we have the, it's sitting right in between. This one 5 minute. Yeah, this one 5 minute. So we have our 21 pip range from, here's our green, red, blue, and then the blue down here. So this is the, these are all 21 pips between these major levels. And so we had a nice little bounce off, nice rejection off the green area, the green fib line. And it's been basically basing inside between the green and the red. And so right now I'd be looking at a target to the target, if it breaks, we're looking for a blue for the target. I'll put this one. This is going to be a 5 minute blue.
Happy Tuesday morning.
Good morning, there,
Happy
Matt.
good morning.
Got a QEUS going on?
Well, that's all we've got so far. And right now it's traded inside the middle of the blue zones. So most of our price action right now is in between the red and the green fib lines. So this is basically the 21 pip range that it's trading in right now. Not a lot of real strong movement. We did have a break of the wedge, came back down, went back into the wedge. And we're just sort of waiting to see what happens. Nothing too exciting.
No, let's see.
I do suspect it's going to be ranging right in between the upper trend line and the lower trend line. pretty much have to wait for it to either break and tag it. And if you took this head fake to go long, I would be getting out somewhere near the top where it retests the top of the wedge. Until then, just stay in it. If it does get to the other end of this, we need to have a little bit more strength, a little bit more pushed, a clearer break above this red fib line to go long. Right now, I'm not seeing the volatility being much to really get too involved with it.
Yeah, it just seems like it's moseying around and not moving fast enough to do anything really.
Yeah. Yeah, we did have the same pair. We had a descending wedge at 645 this morning, which would have been right around in this area.
That would have been a better trade. You could have got your 10 pips with that.
645 was right there. Yep.
That would have been a nice trade.
If you could have gotten in on it.
Right. Oh, look, you might be breaking it to the top. Actually, this looks good.
One thing I did like about taking this thing long down here.
Are you long in it right now?
Actually, I am. I took this as it was going to be the head fake, and when it came back up and gave me a blue candle, I took it long. So right now it's just been hanging in there. I didn't see it getting much lower because it just didn't have the push. What I liked about with the RSIs was we had it was all the way down. Well, this was the area where the RSI was the lowest.
Yeah,
that was great. A nice push up, and here it came back down. It didn't. We got down to the 89 on the blue, but the 8 period could not quite get down to the 75 level. But we did get the crossover. So when it crossed over, I'm looking for it to come back up and retest this area, which is really what it did. But you see, it really didn't get much higher than where this candle was. We actually couldn't even break through this area. The other thing I saw was we had a little bit of a divergence on, let's see, where was it? Actually, it was on the 1 minute, really not so much on this one. On the 1 minute, we had a little divergence on here, but this was not really giving us much to look at for that.
No, not really.
So we'll see if we get the crossover of the moving averages. And I said I'm not going for a whole lot with this one. But depending on what it does here, I may just get out of it at a break even.
Yeah, if it just sits there and keeps on consolidating and doesn't break out, then you might want to pull the trigger out of there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the thing is, you don't know when these things are going to spool up and have lots of volatility, or where they just become range bound, just sort of drop off and it dies. So, but that's trading. That's what you just have to. If you get the volatility, great. If you don't, then you just have to say, well, no, give it a few candles for it to develop. But oftentimes, when it's real low and low volatility, it don't get a lot of range. That means there's usually something else that's going on that's just keeping it. They're waiting for news, or it's just the time of day is not right, or it could be a lot of other factors.
yeah.
The thing is trying to get in a good area and then try and get out without too much greed.
That always bites you in the butt at one point or another.
Yes, it does.
What's your stop on your trade there, Al? Is it 68.88?
The stop would be right around the pretty much the stop. Pretty much the stop would be the bottom if it breaks through the bottom of this major trend line here.
Mm-hmm. That's where I put mine too. Mine's at 68.88. My target is pretty significant, actually. I put a stick, Al, and my stick is kind of big.
To the upside?
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess I could probably do a stick with this one.
That's a big stick, Al.
Well, I'm not
I'm
done yet.
teasing. I'm teasing. It's just early morning humor. Sorry.
Exactly that.
Going to
Well,
infinity.
I just say it was hard getting out of bed this morning.
Yeah. You guys were partying in Brian's room.
Yeah, we were
It's a
playing
nice
with Brian,
surprise visit.
playing with Brian yesterday, last night.
Mhm.
Yeah, that stick comes right up to the upper, to our blue fib line, which is right almost to the pip.
That's exactly where my target is. So I'm that would be a very nice trade. Do I think it's going to go up there? I don't know. Probabilities are that this could do that.
If it can break through this red fib line with a nice close and close above the wedge, and you can see like here, it broke, came up, tested, came up, retested it, tested again, retested. So right now there's a lot of price action right in this area. This is where everything, it takes off, comes back, retests this area, takes off, comes back, retesting this area.
I won't let it go further than where you're very far beyond that trend line.
This is really where all the price action is. So just
Yeah.
so just keep that in mind that this is this playground right now.
Yeah. So your purple or blue trend line, I'm not letting price break below that.
It's just not much volatility right now.
Yeah.
Nope.
Al, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I don't want to cut you off. Al, do you find because like you see the RCS is a 4 and a 3 that like that's part of the reason the volatility that you can kind of see through that because you don't have that 3
Our
the
3
distance
spread.
between the spread between
That's probably
what we normally
part of it.
like.
Yeah, that's probably part of it. They're both kind of in the upper part of the lower 3. I mean, it's they're kind of in the middle of the pack when in that sense. Yeah. We're not getting real strong, and we're getting some flipping back and forth here on the 5 and the 1. This one's still just hanging in there, so it's just trying to decide which way it wants to go. When it decides, it'll probably go with a nice little. I mean, the longer it goes sideways, the more likely it is to break with a little bit bigger move on it.
Yeah.
But you see all the moving averages are all consolidated. I mean, they're all bunched up right here and basically in about a 2 pip area. So it has to decide whether it's going to break out to the top side or the bottom side. And what you may see a real strong move up before it makes its decision.
Remember we said it likes to coil a lot, and when it does, it's finally a really nice breakout. This is a lot of coiling.
In a very tight range.
Very.
Let's see, the range on here right now is only about 3 pips. It hasn't broken out of a 3 pip range in the last let's see, from the low here, from the low to the high. It's basically, you got that's 8 pips right there. We'll see what this does right now. We have the spread's pretty wide right now. When it goes from like, when it's, you see when it's going in a really tight range, you see the spreads will probably start widening a little bit too. I'll take this box off. And you can see it's pretty much right in the middle between the two extremes on these blue 5-minute lines. It's right in the middle and just basing, going sideways until it decides which way it's going to go.
And in all three time frames, the moving averages are all in the correct position for a down move.
Yes. But also remember, it's bouncing off of this 30-minute 62 right here. And
Right.
that's one reason why it's having a hard time getting through that area. Plus you have that, plus you have a higher time frame wedge right here.
Mm-hmm.
30-minute 62. Let's go.
But all the moving averages are in the correct direction to go short.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all very bunched up and tight right now.
Yeah, it's not.
Between the 62, the 13, and the 5, it's all right together, and it's still. Actually, you have all four of them right here within a couple, within probably about 5 pip range.
Hmm. So you think she's going down?
I think it's still range bound. Had a strong move down, came back down, strong move up, retested. So it's basically range bound inside this little area right in here.
Mm.
It's very possible it could come down and retest this area, but it's from this break right here to, it's still only 8 pips. It is a pretty strong move on the break right here. Still want to see it get below this area. It's right now it's testing the higher time frame trend line. And by the time it breaks that, it's still going to have to get through this area. I still don't want to take this trade.
All right.
It's only 6 pips. I'd like a little bit more of a target to get your spread out of there. It's
Let's stop out. Well, it stopped out quite a while ago, but you know, just trading the plan, right?
yep.
There's no emotion in this trade. It's just whatever's going to happen is going to happen. That was a very tight stop anyway, Al. It's like 5 pips.
Yeah.
That was minus like 0.4% of my trading account. The advantage of trading with tight stop losses. When you've got trend lines like we do, it's okay to put it on the other side of that trend line. If it was going to break, then it was going to break. If it wasn't, then I did take it short though, just so we're all on the same page.
And we see yesterday we did have a wedge over here on the let's see, it was around 16 at 7:45. We did have a wedge over here in this area, so this could very well come down and retest that area, but you know, it's hard to say. If you look at our higher time frame chart, this was the wedge that we had. And that was a descending wedge. That was over around this area yesterday. But still relatively supporting this 30-minute in this trend line right now.
I got to stop at 69.03, and my take profit is going to be 68.68. So we'll see what happens.
If it can break this A area, then I'd be looking at it to come down and retest over here where the D is from yesterday's wedge.
Yeah, that's almost my bottom. What is it? 68, 63.
68.63.
Yeah, I've got my target at 60,
Yeah.
68.
But first, I said it's got to get through this area right in here first.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Al, would you take
Yes.
into consideration that on the 5 minute there's a Fibbo at 68.79? for demand?
Uh,
Do you think it'll go
on
through
the,
that?
on the 5 minute.
Yeah.
I think it could probably come down and retest that possibly.
Oh, I didn't even see that. I just drew a stick, which I like. I like the stick.
It might very well crash through it. Who knows?
Let's find out.
It's all a matter of probabilities.
Exactly. Oh, we're in the money now.
So basically, it ended up with this thing short. Okay, like you took it right about in there.
Yeah.
And our 8 pips, our 5 pips is going to be, we'll go for 7, this is for a 7 pips area, right, is, right there's a 7 pips to the downside. If you got in right here on the break, then your stop would be right up in, I probably like the top of this area right here for a stop, which will be 8
Oh, I
pips.
put mine higher, but I don't need to. Now that it broke down like it did, I need it to come back up and retest the bottom of the trend line. Then I'll slide my stop loss down to the top of the trend line. But I won't move my stop loss until after it comes back and re-challenges that trend line, just in case. So you're starting to follow it on the 5 minute AL?
Well, it's just going so slow that I just figured I'd just put it on the 5.
Right. Watch it slice right through that, Al. I don't even think it's going to stop.
It does have a lot of higher time frame support or momentum to the downside.
Well, it just went through the 62. Right?
Yes,
30 minutes, 62.
Yeah,
so now this is going to be, probably have a little bit kick to it.
You have a wider separation between your 13 and your 5 minute 62.
Mm-hmm.
That's going out wider. That's kind of what I was looking at also.
Yep. Very good observation.
Thanks,
Look
Al.
at that.
I learned from the masters.
Mm.
The break of the wedge was, here's the stick. Here's the entry if you were able to get here on the break, or say you're at the bottom of where this area was here, or the bottom of this box. Here's the 12 pip target. So it looks like it's coming down, retesting this, testing this area right in here. As it looking all the way over to the left, you'll see this is where that wedge was from yesterday.
Oh, excuse me.
We had the 1362 cross right down in here, which is right pretty much right at the bottom of the stick. This is where it started, and it was tested right in this area. So here's a little wick. This is all on a 5 minute chart, so keep that for what it's worth. There's a little bit of the 5-minute wick that retested the first push up out where we had the crossover.
And the stick is virtually right there in it.
Yeah,
In
and
the
it's
mix
right
of
in the
it.
middle of where the stick is.
The RSIs are south. Might get your
Came right down to
slow
that
in
green
there.
line and just bounced.
I have a feeling that's not a rejection wick, by the way.
What do you think it is?
I think it's just going to continue going down there. It's like a leading wick. He's telling his buddies, hey, it's good news. Let's go down. What do we got here? Oh, look at that. She turned blue.
Going back a little further to get its buddies.
Mm-hmm. 1 minute 62. Let's see.
Now we can get some of these RSIs up here and hook at the 75 level. That would be a good indication that this thing's going to go further down. This is a nice strong pullback.
It's very nice. And it needed to do that if it's going to go to where we think it is.
Here's the retest of the wedge. We don't get these very often anymore. We get the breakout, then it just goes back up and then just keeps on going. But this one might have a little bit of meat to it.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
There's a little bit of a drop. Here's a little bit of basing area right here. It came right up into. Let me get some of these other lines off of here. Here's the trend line. Here's another trend line. So right here, and here's a little basing right here. If you can see this. Came back up. The basing's right here where the trend line is. And this is really where the break of the wedge was, right up in this whole area right in here. If we can get this RSI to hook and come back down and break through it to get both of these RSIs heading in the down direction, that would be a good time to maybe re-enter this thing. If you're not to enter it or to re-enter it. And this whole zone right here is 89 to 86. It's only 3 pip range right in here. Like I said, right now I'm looking to see, it's in the supply area right here, off that little wick over wick. It's coming up, retesting the wedges. Now what I'm looking to do is see when this thing hooks and crosses over that 8 RSI. That's where we have red holes on the 15, the 5. And right now this is the push up. Now these are still showing that the dollar is still strong. And we are coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, which is another factor that we usually pay attention to.
You think that might have been the 9 o'clock pullback?
Could be.
I guess we could call it that. Let's see.
Oftentimes we get these head fakes, and head fakes will still get you your 5 to 7 pips oftentimes. We do have the 1 minute crossovers right now. If we can get a close above this 62, I think it's going to probably go long and come back up into the wedge and retest it. Here's the opposite side of the wedge right up in here. As this thing's been sloping down, after each candle slopes down a little bit tighter and tighter. Right now it's retesting this range right in here, where the
62.
Well, the 62, and also you've got several 60. You got the 1 minute 62, the 30 62. You got both trend lines right in this area. Let's see, this is a real key area right in here.
And it might get stopped out for me. Let's see.
Well, you see right now is I like to see either this thing come back up, the wedges hold, or as it breaks up through the middle, it comes back down, retests it. So like I say, another little, if it's going to go long, I like to see a pullback but it still respects this low right here. No new alerts since 7:30. All right, there's the retest of the wedge right there. And this thing could, we do our extension from here to retrace. And we had our original wedge was right here. And it comes right back down into our 78 to 100 area. So this could be, may still be okay there, Matt.
Yeah, sorry.
You still may, did you get stopped out?
Nope, not yet.
You still may be all right. Put this as a target to the downside. I would not push it much more than through this area. So it's a nice strong move down, nice strong pullback, pulled back a little bit over 60%. The wedge still held.
A big zone of consolidation, let's tell you that.
I like the fact it came right up in between these two trend lines.
Hmm.
And now we're starting to get the little crossover of the right now the 5 and 1362 are just right now consolidating once again. There's a little drop, little basing right here. This is a little small little wedge right in this area right here. Here's a low, here's a high, another low. This out of the way. There it goes.
Look at that.
It looks really big, but that's only a couple pips.
Oh yeah, Al, you're cheating. You're putting it on the 1 minute. You're getting me all excited.
Well, it still looked like a big move, but still only like 2 pips.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't what I call a real active. I mean, it has big moves, but there's not going anywhere. I mean, you look at these candles. This is where it can be really deceptive. You see this nice big candle, and you find out it's. You think, oh, that's really a big move, but it's really only. No, this one was like 6 pips. And one thing to take notice of, the spread keeps on changing, like from a 0.4, 0.5, 0.6. See these big moves, but if you're in the trade, it's like it doesn't go anywhere because the spread keeps changing. And generally, the wider the spread, the less activity and the less volatility you're getting. But the market makers, the people who are taking the opposite side of these positions, have to get their profit out of there. So they just widen the spreads.
Yeah, let's see what's going on. Excuse me.
Yeah, when things are going this low, you're almost better just staying out of it and just waiting for the next train to come down the track, or until it breaks out of that, gets a little bit more defined as far as which way it's going to be trending.
Yeah.
Seems to be hanging up pretty much in this channel right here, right like this. So if it breaks the upside out of here, then probably be looking at the upper trend line, which has not yet been confirmed. In fact, this was a nice little pullback, broke this trend line. I do see a little bit more to the downside. This is where if you just keep jumping in and out of trades, that's where you just get chewed up with your spreads and your small losses, but they do add up after a while. Now this area between the wedges or between the trend lines is still a valid area. If you got in at short right in this area, I would keep my stop just above the top of this box. I'd probably go with the top of this candle right there.
Nine o'clock.
There we go. Let's see what happens here.
Yes, let's have them at extremes. US 7, NZD 0.
Oh, there we go. Starting to pick up some steam to the short side. I'd still be using this as a target zone. This is where you have to let it breathe a little bit. The spreads are getting wider now at 1.7. Now we're up to almost a 2-point spread. Must be the volatility or the volume must be dropping off. Now it's down to, it was just at 1.9. The spread, I've been watching the spread here. It's like 1.3 now. It was 1.9 just a couple seconds ago. Now it's 1.3. Let's see how it looks on our 5-minute charts. All of our moving averages are in the right direction. We have a nice little, this 30-minute 62 has been pretty much, it crossed that now fairly decisively. Right now at the bottom of our range that we were working with originally. If you look at this, our daily, well, actually this was our over the night. This is actually was a little bit higher here on the overnight. This was a range it was, and it's right now could be testing the bottom of this range right now. I do like the fact we have a nice close below this 30-minute 62. All of our moving averages are 15 or 562, the 13 and 5 all in the right direction on the 5-minute, the 1-minute, and on the 15-minute. Look on our 15-minute chart, you'll see again we have everything's in the right direction, and we're starting to get the cross of the. We start getting the 13 cross of the 30-minute 62. That's going to be real significant. This could end up being a nice trade here. Or it could just stall out right here at the bottom of this. In fact, we had so much news coming in on the US dollar right here at 8:30. That's probably one reason why it's been so sluggish today.
Mm-hmm.
The US stock market had a nice move up yesterday. I would expect a little bit of a pullback today on that. Which would indicate somewhat of dollar strength. All right, now it's still working for us.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
It breached the box.
Yep, I'd like to see a close below that.
Mm-hmm.
I still have my 2 positions open, so just small ones.
Quiet group today.
We're mesmerized by this trade.
Yeah, well, you know, it's what this gives us a little feel for patience and just the charting of it and how what levels it's holding, what levels are breaking, where our targets are. This is starting to turn into a nice little trade. Yeah, if this thing just starts trending, it could just follow this little channel all the way back down, but it's not going to be a direct, I don't see it being a direct ride on that one. But I'd say this trend line right here is somewhat validated. This one, not so much. This one was breached. This is where you can catch these really big moves. If you can catch a channel that just keeps on retesting the extremes of the channel all the way down. And here's an anchor, here's a hit, here's a hit, here's a hit. We'll validate this one.
Oh, excuse me.
There's something that's a little bit interesting. You may want to look at this. This is harmonic pattern for the New Zealand USD, and it's showing a target of 68.76, which are just about right there. That's where the D is. Now, if it breaks, this would be this. If you would take this thing long right here, basically what it's saying is, here's move down, here's where you would enter to go long, and these would be the upper targets. So we're just about right there right now at the 68.76 range. If you took it long here, your stop would be down here at the 68.71. So that'd be about an 8-pip stop. That one just came through. And that's right where my target is, right here. And we should have some fib lines close by. Here's our blue one. It's just now testing the blue. And those are usually the extremes. Those are support and resistance levels of the range. Right now it's retesting this, and right on now, if you're in the trade, I'm getting out of my trade there. Boom, done. And right now, if I'm looking at another indicator that I use, the 4-hour indicator is now in the extreme to the downside. So I'd be looking at this thing to start bouncing off the bottom of here. It could go a lot lower still, but it is now at the, and from an RSI standpoint, it's down in the 89 area, respectively, or the 11 area. One thing about RSIs are showing that like this is the oversold area, this is the overbought area. But oversold means it could go more oversold even when it gets down that area, until it gets and starts pulling out of this area, it's very likely can keep right on going. Oversold can be more oversold. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this other stuff off of here, and I'm going to draw that harmonic so you can see what the harmonic is doing. And so we had a 945 was the low. I'll go over on a 15-minute chart. Lots of stuff over here. Let's get all this off of here. Let me just clean this up. So they're looking at this low right here for the beginning of the harmonic. From this low, went to this high. And came back down to, looks like about here to here. And then the D was down here. Let me double check those. Yep, and then the D is right down here, right? It's coming right into the entry zone for the to go long. I would not go long until it curls back and comes back in through this area. It had a target 68.76.
Yeah, I'm not looking to catch the bottom.
This would be an entry to buy. But I want to see this thing come down. I'd be looking at something like this. Have it come.
The D does like to slide quite a bit.
Yeah,
So.
the D does slide quite a bit. Come back out, and then this would be. I'd wait for it to come back down, retest this area. We have our stop is all the way down here at the 68.71 area. 68.71, which would be right about here, would be where the stop is.
That was really hard to say with a straight face.
What's that?
Oh, about the D.
Oh, Yeah, the D will slide quite a bit, as will the C as well. So you have to be really careful with that. But you would want to just find that price action that will help confirm the next wave action. And see, this alert came in at 7:30 this morning, which was right here. You see how this price is just bouncing right off of this level right here. Now, if this D holds right there and it comes back up, you could get one of this number like this. Right now, I would be looking at this as a range. This is right where our target was initially. And looking over here to the left, I'm looking to see where the strong move up was, came back down, retested right here where the X. This is the retest. So right now, this is the area that we'd be looking at as a demand zone. And this is the retest. Bring this on over to a lower time frame. See how it's respecting, how this respect the fib line, came back down, broke, based, broke, came up, retesting it. This thing could still go a little bit lower still. This fib line is holding. And what that harmonic is saying is that if you get in here, you can get in anywhere, either as it comes in or as it leaves. This is where your stop would be. I'd probably like to see it come on, retest this trend line over here, which is the top of this, where that original move came up, where the X of this harmonic was. This was the, pretty much right where the X, and this was the basing below it. If you get a close above this fib line, comes back up and retests the fib line, this would be, everything would still be good for a long then. And then the targets would be 68.93. Be target one. And 69.03 for target two. Ideally, I would like to see as a nice strong move down with a nice wick right down here, tagging here, and rejection of that area. And then that would be what my stop would be to go long. I see a little drop, basing area. I can see this thing coming up. It's going to retest this and then come back down to retest the bottom here. You want to pay attention to this area right in here. Remember, we're looking for an ABC move coming out of here. So this could be the A, B, C. And we're about 2 minutes from the market open. We'll see where that takes us this morning. This is nice because we're actually seeing this trade all the way through to the extension to possibly to the full retracement and looking where our next target zones are. And so this is really a nice little move here from, if we can get in down here, that's 17 pips, that's another 27 pip move right up to there. And that's pretty much right where all the action was this morning. And the US market just opened up. So it blew right through that. Now it's coming up looking at this area. So this one's no longer valid. Although what it could see happening, it could come back down and retest this area on the way down. If this area holds, then it's probably going to, then we could get one of these low numbers like this. I want to see a nice wick up in the rejection of an area. If you can see where our alert came in up here this morning, earlier this morning, this was the area that we were looking at for, remember I say these areas act like magnets, that once it's rejected, it comes back and retests it. Once it's rejected, it comes back and retests it. This is the same area where we had the our trend lines.
Did you get in that long, Al?
I did not. No, I'm waiting for the pullback. I've seen the D move too many times to put my hat on that. But now this is a nice rejection of the area. I do expect this thing to come back and retest this. The D should hold. If this is the beginning of a new wave 1, wave 2, then wave 3 would be up in this area. Oftentimes you get a strong move up. If you draw a harmonic and pitchfork off of this, we can draw a pitchfork off. Let me get on a 15-minute chart here. If we draw the, this would be what they call a Charlie Delta X-ray pitchfork. You come into, get the pitchfork tool here, come in and take your C area, move it down to your D, and then move this to the X-ray. Actually, this would be right here, I guess. This is the one right there. Slide this over. And now we're looking to see where the hits are. Let me take this one off here. So right now I'm looking at this thing's going to come up and retest this, which you see it bounce right off that tine of the fork, come back down. Now it's going to be retesting the D. Take this one off. Am I on target here, Matt? You're the expert on this part.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks quite all right.
So I'm still looking at this area. This is our target 1, so it could come on up, but right now you can see where this thing came up and came right up to this fork tine. And you can see right here where this nice red candle, this big red candle where it was rejected right into this area. And we're basically right back into where the original wedge was from earlier this morning. If I'm reading this correctly. Coming right on up to the moving average. There's our 30 minutes 62. Now, as this thing pulls back, it will see if it takes the D out and moves lower, or if the D holds and goes up higher. This is almost a classic pitchfork Charlie X-ray Delta pattern here. This will still be my target one, but I'm still going to be wait to come back in and try and get in down here to go long. 30.62 still held. All of our moving averages on our 15-minute are still, so right now it's still trending on the downside. If we look and see if we got any crosses on the 1 minute, spread this out a little bit. Now it's coming down to retest the D. So now with this, we're looking at, this could be the beginning of that end of the downtrend. This could be our wave one. This could be our wave two retest. Now, if the D holds, you can take it long from there and then head on up to look for your target one. And if the D breaks, we start the process all over again. It's retesting the green fib line. And your green fib line to your entry, to where this projected entry is, you're looking at 79 to, you're looking at 3 pips. You get a close above here, you could probably take a long, you may want to be safer if you wait for these moving averages to cross over. But this is a valid entry right in here. We had this came down, we had couldn't break the D. There's some sellers and there's some buyers down in this area.
Yeah, I took this one long. I've got a stop at 68.74.
Oh, we're down there, okay. We're getting the hook. And this would be demand. So now the target is, if you got in long down here, your target's up here. Yeah, the cross, we had the pass and check. Pass, we may get another check of the green fib line.
I like the 30-minute 62 as a target, Al.
Yeah, yeah, right up here, this one. Yep.
Yep.
Again, that's again right where this whole move started in the first place when we started up here with the wedge alert. This would be the target zone up here. I have a feeling it may just go ahead and break and give us another test of the, of the upper trend line. Let's take this one out of the way. That's done. So from a harmonic standpoint and from a trend retracement standpoint, if we go from here to here and we retrace back to where we got in, let's see, that's not quite right. Yeah, it would be. Started from here, going up to where it got rejected, come back down. If this is a wave one, this would be a wave two. Wave three is going to be at least up into this area, which is right about where we're talking about with having the 30-minute 62. So from a Elliott wave standpoint, we're looking at this is the beginning of a wave one, possibly. Here's wave one. Here's wave two. Wave three is always bigger than wave one, which brings us pretty much all the way up here to wave three. Could be here or it could be up a little bit higher. Wave four pulls back and then it goes on up a little bit higher. Now, we don't know if that's going to be the case, but that's a reasonable projection. If this breaks, this wave two, we now have the end of wave two, which is right here. It held the D, which is the beginning of the wave one, was not broken. Now, if this one comes back and breaks it, then all bets are off. If this area holds, then we're looking pretty good for wave three. So the stop is still down here. And it wants to enter a buy. You can say a buy limit. We just had the rejection off of this area right here. You could just go with the market if you wish, or you could just go with the buy stop above this candle of 68.81. So buy stop 68.81. 68.80. And our stop would be, and we're going to get ourselves into the trade if we can. And our stop's going to be down here at 68.71. And our first target, we're looking at 68.90. And then we wait. Anybody have any questions about what we're doing, what we're seeing? Anybody have any comments? Feel free to turn your mics on and ask questions. We're a friendly group. We'd like to talk to people.
We didn't chew anybody's head off. Don't worry.
No, that was only earlier in the morning.
This looks like this could be a nice trade, Matt.
I absolutely agree. I like this one. That's why I was in it for a while.
I like the fact this came it came up to this time on this pitchfork, came back down, rejected it. The D held, so that means the harmonic was a pretty solid harmonic. And now the question is, we'll go and start breaking up to our, ideally what we're going to be looking at is the midpoint of the tine on the pitchfork, which is, see, I think that's the dotted line right here, I believe. Yep, here's the dotted line. So it should come back up. Once it comes up, this is right where the target 2 is. If it retests if it comes up to the median of the pitchfork. And I believe it's what, a 70% chance that it's going to go from one end of the pitchfork to the other end of the pitchfork. Is that the right percentage there, Matt?
I forget the exact one.
It's 60 or 70% probability.
Oh, it's higher than that.
80%? Was it 80%? I think maybe it was 80%.
Well, if it bounces off of the bottom like it did, then it has a very high probability to go to the middle of the pitchfork.
Yeah.
Very high, like over 70%. I think it's closer to 89% or something.
And that's assuming that the harmonic was a valid harmonic, that the harmonic doesn't change and it holds, and that the
the ratios could fail.
Ratios. Yeah. And I have seen that, but you know, you just have to do the math, let it draw the formation, and then you just take it, either believe it or you don't. We have some other indicators that help to support that. Right now we're showing that on the 1 minute, we have the New Zealand showing strong. The dollar is still showing strong to the downside on this one, on the higher time frame, which is not supportive of what our direction is. But this one is, but if in fact we got the bounce off of the extreme, that's a pretty good indication that these are going to start to flip. And if you look at you can see that the high of this was right there. That's at 5.
This could definitely be
This
the
is 7.
bottom of a 8-hour move or a 4-hour move.
Yeah, and you can see that the dollar, which was this line up here, was at a 7 earlier this morning at 2:30, and you see it's losing ground. It came up and it's now losing some ground. This was at the low this morning, right where this was at the high, and now this is starting, and you see where they kind of crossed right in here. So you can see where there's a good chance that this thing is going to materialize for us. But, you know, we'd never know for sure.
No, because we got a nice big fat wedge that formed on the 5-minute chart. So we have a wedge and then we have another wedge underneath it. And I realized that this morning I drew my stick a little big. And so if I would have made it a little bit smaller based on the top of the wedge, I made my wedge a little too big. If I would have made it smaller, then it would have hit the target. To the pip, actually. So, but that's fine. What is your target on this one now?
60, first target 1 is 68.90. Target 2 is 68.93.
Okay.
And it's basically what that is. It's right here at the 30.62, which is pretty much what you called earlier.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to try and challenge that 62. I don't.
I do like the fact that this thing came up, hit the first time, came back down, retested the bottom of the pitchfork, and then we're looking at now for the target 2, which is right up here by the middle of the fork, right here, that dotted line, and that's all in the same area, and that's all right by a fib line. So I think this is a really strong area. If it does start to trend and start moving up, this is a good target area to be looking at. But it's not going to be immediate. It may take all day, may even take through the middle of the night for it to get up there. But I think that's right now everything's looking good. I'm going to leave my stop where it is, and I'm just going to go for the target, and whatever happens, happens.
Right on.
Right now it's just trending up. Let's just see how high this trend will go. Is that we did have to break the 1 and go higher. Right now you can see it's sort of forming its own little wedge right here, a little sloping up. Here's the top of it. The flat top. I have the cross of the moving averages here on the 1 minute. We need to see those cross, and there we go. There's popping on up. That's just what we want to be seeing. Like to get a close above there. Then we'd be looking at starting to head up to retest this and then overshoot to hit our first target. Generally, things generally tend to go up slower than they come down. Yeah, we're almost time for our 10 o'clock reversal. Oftentimes you'll get a reversal at 10 o'clock. Market opens up at 9:30. First half hour positions are being taken, and then look for the big move after that. See, the S&P is pulling back this morning. I think you're going to see a correction today on the S&P, especially with all the news coming out this morning. Right now we're seeing dollar strength on the, well, pretty much on all the charts, all the currencies, dollars right now on this 1 minute to 5. But that, I'm guessing that's going to reverse based on what I'm seeing here.
Hey Al, what time do we go until today?
I'd say we could probably about wrap it up now since we're it's about 10 o'clock. Usually we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, because I've got a baby situation, so.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's 10 o'clock now, and we've been at this thing for 2 hours. Still watching.
We had a really good morning.
It was an interesting morning. It was able to see a lot of different factors that played into this, and we'll just see where it takes us. So we know what the direction are. We have our game plan set up. So with that in mind, let's just call it a morning. And thanks for everybody for coming in, and watch this trade and see how we did. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys around.
Good day.
Bye.
Bye.